And welcome back to Hometown TCG, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John.
And I'm Josh, and you can see us swinging hammers, so you know we're talking Oldhim, and we're talking Blitz deck budget upgrades. But before we get into that, we got this new studio going. We got John back with us, so huge shout out to all you guys subscribing on YouTube, and an even bigger shout out to all of our patrons at patrons.com/HometownTCG for making all this possible.
Huge thanks to everyone, and thanks for tuning in here because we are excited for this series, and we are getting to Oldhim. So with this deck, he's the defensive guy, he's the ice guy, kind of the control thing. And when we first tested out this deck,
it wasn't the meats.
We felt it wasn't Arby's.
It wasn't Arby's. It didn't have the beef.
and it just was missing something a little bit. So we decided to kind of tear it down. We replaced like 25 of the cards in the deck.
Yeah, 25 or 26. So if you guys have watched the series in the past, you know we'll give you kind of a theme of the deck. We'll give you what we took out and what we threw in. But this time, it's like the studio, dude. It's full construction. We're replacing 26 cards, and we can promise you that when we built this deck on TCG Player, according to this screenshot editor, this one, you can buy the upgrades for this deck and the deck itself for under $50. So this is a full rebuild, essentially, and let's get into the biggest aspect of the rebuild.
The biggest thing is going to be Winter's Wail.
Oh my, you have to swing, one hand. Swing the hammer!
It is one-handed. Hacha! So this thing is amazing because it gives you a hit effect on a weapon. Like, that's incredible. A hit effect on a weapon that's very relevant and can slow people down. So in order to make that happen, we kind of had to build the deck really around the ice theme.
Yeah, we 100% leaned into that ice theme and leaned into this Winter's Wail build, which meant we had to kind of make use of, very much like Bravo and Guardians in the past, we had to make use of cards that maybe aren't the best attacks, but satisfy a lot of conditions. And those standard Guardian conditions are?
That they cost 3, but we don't have to do that. We have to do ice.
Yes.
That they block 3.
Yes, big blocks, big beef.
Hoping
Ideally.
they block 3. And they're blue.
Yes, so these were a little harder to find with ice. A lot of ice cards don't block for 3, but we have to include those because of the Winter's Wail ad.
Yeah, so we're looking our best here. Let's just get right into it. I think the first one we love the most is going to be Winter's Grasp.
Oh, yeah, because it satisfies everything there, right? It's ice, it's blue, and it blocks for 3, and is it the only generic ice card that blocks for 3?
Yeah, unless we're getting Majestics.
Which you'll find it's different with this deck because people are very high on Oldhim. Majestics are expensive.
Mm-hmm. So besides that 3 block, we're going to start looking at 2 blocks, but we're looking at something where if we have to play it, it's okay.
Yes.
We can make use of it. So our next one we're going to look at is Winter's Bite.
Yeah, Winter's Bite Blue is almost as valuable as Winter's Bite Red. I mean, in certain situations, obviously the red's going to be a little more powerful, but blue is enough where you're getting that card somehow. You're trading 1 for 1 in cards, and you're hoping your opponent's resources aren't as efficient as yours. So Winter's Bite Blue makes the cut. It satisfies a lot of conditions. Another one that does is Polar Blast. Now again, not super high on this card, right?
Yeah, it doesn't do a ton of things, but it can set you up for when you need dominate on something big.
Right.
So on certain turns, it can be amazing. And it's kind of like the Winter's Bite in that it's almost as valuable as the red version.
Yes, so, you're definitely doing like a 1-for-1 trade, whether you're playing blue or red in most scenarios.
Yeah. Another one would be Icy Encounter. So this is another ice card. It only blocks 2, but if we have to play it, it's kind of like using your weapon, but it costs 1 less.
Yeah, and it's the condition we've talked about too, where a lot of times when we have these fusion cards, where these more generic lightning or generic ice cards, we often are stuck in a position where we have to throw them in our arsenal. And in that case, we want the card to at least have a minor hit effect or be a nuisance if we have to pay the tax to then throw that out.
So if it gets stuck there, yeah, I do like that. It's the same as your weapon, and it can actually be used if you have a Frostbite token too. So slightly better.
100%. And we also did add there's blue Snow Unders in this deck. Again, it's a blue, it blocks for 3 because this one's a Guardian. It's not an ice card, but it's got a very relevant hit effect. So we feel in a pinch, you can throw this out there and at least disrupt your opponent. But again, most of these times, these are blocked, they're pitches, used like that.
That's right. Now the final blue.
Oh, are we going to talk about the final
one,
blue already?
This one is just epic. One that we love. It's not the final blue. Sorry, I jumped the gun. But it's the best one. It's going to be...
We're not telling you now because we're going to talk about the other blues. We got Glacial Footsteps. We'll just gloss over. We do have Glacial Footsteps in there. Again, relevant. It's Dominate. You can get through with it. And then Evergreen, it's a blue that I believe also... Does that one block for 3? No, I think that one blocks for 2.
I think it blocks for 2.
Blocks for 2.
Yep. But it can be played, and it's...
I can't believe we're going to leave him on bated breath. That's fine. Earthlong Surge Blue is in the deck. It satisfies the Earth condition. It blocks for 2 itself, and it also is good at turning on Oldhim's power. So it's there. Chill to the Bone is in the deck as well. Again, just like we talked about before, it's another card where if you got to throw it out of Arsenal, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it adds something.
Yes. And then finally, I think we're down to the last 2 before we can talk about the card. I'm like super excited. I'm like a dog. I'm like a dog on a leash, trying to get out.
Break Ground is going to be another one that it can be okay to play.
It Earth fuses. Spoiler alert.
Something. And then Autumn's Touch. This is another Earth Fuse, and it can block 3. So we like this one a lot.
Yep, that's the other generic Earth card that can block for 3.
And now, the final blue, which you've all been waiting for.
In this deck is 100% Pulse of Eisenloft. It is incredible, and not even just as a defense reaction. It satisfies both Earth and Ice fusion. In a pinch, it's used as a defense reaction. If you pitch it for Oldhim's power, you get to trigger both sides of Oldhim's power.
You lose a card and you prevent 2.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane. This card is so good, and it was the most expensive card in the budget.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thank goodness it was only a one-off.
I'm glad we were able to get it in here because we tried to work around it, getting other things instead. We're like, maybe we could add 2 more Majestics instead of it, but it just does so much and kind of is part of our main strategy, which we'll get into. We need it.
Yeah, we 100% need it because our main strategy does shift. Before, the out-of-the-box Oldhim deck felt like it was going for these big setup turns, but they weren't big enough and they didn't have relevant hit effects, so a lot of times your opponent could push through enough damage on the turn you were setting up, and on the turn after, just take all the damage without a relevant hit effect, and just kind of finish you off. It felt really underwhelming and really hard to do.
Right.
So we leaned away from that.
That's
100%.
Right. So now, as we start to get into more of our powerful cards, you'll see that our strategy, we're going to lean into the block out and swing hammer a lot, because now the hammer's even better. But then the cards we're setting up for are going to be more impactful.
Yes, we do give you a huge setup, and I'm going to go ahead and already jump the gun here and talk about the big setup for this deck, and that is Oaken Old here, guys. This card on Oldhim is insane, and it's like $1.78.
Super cheap.
It's so cheap.
It's so good. It can give you turns that are better than Crippling Crushes.
Yeah, it 100% can give you turns better than Crippling Crushes. It still satisfies the hit, get rid of 2 cards, right? You're dominating this big attack. You're almost guaranteed to push through damage, especially in a really budget-friendly format. And not only that, to talk about the jump the gun again, Pulse of Eisenloft satisfies both sides of the fusion.
So let's talk about this. You have Oaken Old in your hand, and you pitch for it with a blue. Okay? Eisenloft is going to be in your hand too.
Yep, and you fuse Oaken Old with Pulse of Eisenloft, and then your opponent says, okay, no block. I'm going to keep my 2 cards, I'll put 2 in the back, and I'm going to crack back. And you say, no sir, that Arsenal card, it comes out, and we're all the way back to Welcome to Red. It's a pummel paid for by the Pulse of Eisenloft. Discarding 3 cards, doing 13 damage. Absolute insanity.
Yeah, so 13 damage.
13 damage, dominate.
3 cards. Dominate, and it only costs 4 cards to do.
Yes.
That's way better than Crippling Crush.
It's so good, and it has been... It was the dream. It finally gave this deck the meaningful thing to set up for. And majority of the time at that point, you can close out the game because you'll find your opponent is no longer free to just, I'll take your Winter's Wail, pay the 1 extra tax from the Frostbite token and keep trying to kill you. they can't do that anymore. They're down to their dying breath here.
That's
they need to
right.
hold on.
That's right. And pummel also, it can work on the hammer because your hammer has a hit effect anyway.
Oh my, I completely forgot that you can pummel the hammer to make a frostbite token.
I didn't
So
even
good.
think about it just now, but yeah, it works for the frostbite.
Why
token.
have we not
So
done
good.
that? That is so good. But we do play some standard Guardian stuff. We are playing Sink Belows. Pummels we've already talked about. We're playing Red Snow Under because just like Blue, it's another hit effect that you can set up for. It's something else to pummel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Winter's Grasp can give you another arsenal target
Yep.
after fusing,
100%.
and it's a good hit effect. And then what else do we have? We have Biting Gale in there. Just a good defense reaction.
It's a really good defense reaction. If you Earth Fuse it, it's you often trade because you have to pay for it. You trade 1 for 1 with some minor upgrades, or even with the legendary upgrades that you can do something else with that 1 mana, but 1 resource. I said mana. Oh my gosh, the 1 resource you can do stuff with. I don't know, did I mention Sink Belows?
You did mention
Okay,
Sink
we're
Belows,
doing
but
Guardian stuff.
It is nice to be able to filter out that card. You have so many ice cards in your
Yes.
hand, in your deck, to where if you didn't draw it in 4 cards, chances are it will be.
You
in
can
that
sink
6th
something,
one.
find that ice card, still
You
sinks.
have a good
Yeah.
shot at it. And then the last 2 will be just to help with more of our Earth Fusion stuff in case. We have Autumn's Touch in yellow and red. Okay, arsenal targets. They block 3 in their Earth.
Yep, and we didn't want to get too crazy with the equipment in this deck. We kept kind of the out-of-the-box equipment set, so you didn't have to go above and beyond thinking about that. But again, this is such a huge rebuild, so let's just talk about the fact that this deck is definitely more streamlined as far as what Oldhim wants to do. It plays great defense, it swings an efficient weapon with a hit effect, and then it sets up for these massive turns. I think it does that all better than the out-of-the-box version.
Yeah, I think so too. The hit effects really
Yes.
change it, and that's what we were going for, and we had to switch the deck up a little bit to get there. Now, there are a couple more things we think we could do. So if you had the budget,
Big baller alert.
big baller alert, besides legendaries,
Yes. Keeping legendaries completely out of the deck, we would add a couple more things. Most of his Majestics seem like they're in a fairly
great.
good spot.
So you're looking at Blizzard. It's another ice card that would be great to have.
It doesn't block, but you got to keep one behind anyway to swing the hammer, and taking away Go Again, or at least a Go Again tax, is so valuable in this format.
Absolutely destroy some people. Or why can't I think of the name of it? The amazing ice card that makes
Channel Lake Frigid.
Channel Lake Frigid.
I've
God.
opened 3 foils and none of them have been alternate art. LSS, come find me. Channel Lake Frigid is another, since we're playing enough ice in here, it's a tax that you can consistently stack for.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say consistently stack it for 2 turns. So a lot of times you can really lock an opponent down, really take a wheel out of tempo. If you've got Channel Lake Frigids, they can slot into
Throw
this
it
deck
in there,
very
100%.
nicely.
So good. And it can replace a 2-block one with a 3-block.
And then going into, if you're playing outside of budget formats, the Majestic, I think it's Awakening that starts destroying, or Endless Winter, I believe it is, that starts destroying equipment.
Endless
things like
Winter
that.
is so good.
Yep.
No, that's the create frostbite token.
Oh, sorry, that's the
You're
one.
thinking of
Endless
the
Winter's.
elemental one.
Yes.
And then Terra Sunder as well.
Terra
Dude, they're just-
Sunder is just so
they're
good.
just also
Because
good.
Terra Sunder also triggers on the weapon. It's your next
Yeah.
Guardian attack gains dominate and +1. So all of these are just fantastic, guys. If you've got these Majestic, there is space in this deck they can slot in. But as you're slotting them in, remember your theory, right? We want blues, we want ice cards, and we want to swing with relevant effects. So make sure we're not removing anything that kind of takes away from that, and you'll be good to go. But do you have any final thoughts on Old Jim for us?
Just like Bravo, lean into the blocking that he can do. Block him out, use your hammer, set up for when your opponent is going to have an off turn and when you can really make use of it. And this guy can just destroy you.
100%. Don't be afraid to pivot strategies. If you think you're ready for your big turn, but your opponent really is coming at you hard, don't be afraid to pivot off that big turn. Maybe arsenal something, hold on to it for a little while longer to make sure you really mitigate the damage you take. Because you might be a bazooka, but you only got like 3 or 4 rockets, so you gotta use them wisely.
You do. That you do. I like that analogy. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun with this one. I love Oldhim, but we got maybe my favorite one coming up next in Lexi. So
I think it might be a community favorite. So we'll see. Don't claim her just as your favorite.
Yeah.
I think the whole community might be a buzz. But until next time, guys, my name is Josh,
I'm John.
and we'll see you around.